Gas Station Business 101 podcast. I'm your host, Shabir Hussain, and this is episode number 31.
Welcome to the one and only Gas Station Business 101 podcast, where you can learn all the secrets about how to start and operate a gas station business successfully and make money. This podcast is brought to you by the good folks at CSB Academy Publishing Company. And now, here is your host, Shabir Hussain.
Hello there. Welcome to Gas Station Business 101 podcast. This is episode number 31. And today, as you read the title of the episode, it's all about investment visas. I know I spoke briefly last week that we will have an episode all about investment category visa. But let me tell you why I have decided to do so. Lately, I've been getting a lot of email from my international listeners and readers about investment visas and what and how to go about getting one of those legally. At first, I was going to include some of these questions that I received via email in last few months to the new Q&A session that I've been thinking about doing, which I have not done one yet, but there will be episodes all about Q&A. Lately, I've noticed that the emails have increased in numbers, and I have decided that instead of mentioning or answering those in Q&A, I need to dedicate an entire episode just on investment visas. Now, let me first tell you that I'm not an expert when it comes to visa laws or immigration process. So what I have done is I have gone on the web to some experts and bought a book and started reading all about investment category visas. And then I send out some emails to some of the web help forums that are run by attorneys, and I have gotten some answers. So what I started doing is I gathered up all my thoughts and put them in a piece of paper. So after you listen to this episode, if you're interested in reading all about what we're talking here today about, you can go to the blog post and my show notes on my blog. If you log on to or go into gasstationbusiness101.com, on the very first page you will see show notes for episode 31. Just click there and there will be a link for you to read the blog post as well. And every name and every link and resources that I've gathered, I included them at the end of my blog post. So you will see a section where it says helpful resources. So any of you are interested in finding out more, and if you have any question as far as where I got the information that I will be sharing here today, I have shared all those links because I understand this is a very delicate matter. So I don't want to quote something or say something that is not true, and you may get the wrong information and act on it, and then that may be a financial loss for you. So I'm being very careful as far as what I discuss in this episode. So I will heavily rely on the research data that I've gathered. One word of caution before we start. As you know, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. I'm here to provide some basic information about various investment-related visas and how they work. It's something that, as I said, I gathered through research and reading a book that I bought from Amazon. So just know that I'm not offering any legal advice here, nor I'm qualified to offer you any legal advice. So please, before you act on any information that we share here today, ask an immigration attorney or a lawyer for up-to-date advice. And by doing the research recently in the last 2 weeks, I have found a few law firms that I believe are pretty good and reputable. And their name came over and over when I was doing research online. And I have decided to share those names and the links to their websites at the end of my show notes. So if you, again, go to the resource section you will find a list of those names along with some other articles that I've found on CNN and other media sites. Now, without further ado, let's jump in. And today I would like to discuss these 6 topics. Number 1 is, what is an investment visa? Number 2, what are the different types of investment visas? Number 3 would be, which one is more suitable for gas station business or small businesses like gas station business? Number 4 is, what are the requirements to get one of those visas? Number 5 is, how to apply for one? Number 6, do these visas help you get a permanent residency into the US? And number 7 is 7 safety measures to protect your investment. Let's start with the very first question, which is the very basic one. What is an investment visa? Well, investment visas are something that the US State Department gives you that would allow you to come to the United States, stay here, and work legally under that visa program. Unlike tourist or business visa that some of you get when traveling to the US, under those visas, you're only allowed to stay less than 6 months or up to 6 months, and you're not allowed to work while you are in the country. But under investment category visas, you're allowed to stay, work, and in most cases, bring your family with you and live here. Not just stay for 6 months or 9 months, but pretty much live here as long as you fulfill the requirements of the visa. And in some cases, you can apply and become permanent resident and eventually a citizen of the United States. So we will touch on that soon, but let's go and talk about number 2, which is, what are the differences between the types of investment visas? So let's talk about what type of investments visas are out there for you to apply. The very first one and the oldest one, this is the way the investment visa category has started, which is EB-5 visa. EB-5 stands for Employment-Based Fifth Preference Visa. Now, why is it a fifth preference? I have no idea. But originally, back in the 90s, in 1991, I believe, when Congress have decided that they will pass a law where people from other countries that are wealthy and are willing to come to the United States to invest their wealth, they can do so legally as long as they're willing to invest certain amount of money. And there are some guidelines that they have to follow. And if they fulfill those requirements, then they can come to this country not on a visa, but as an immigrant, meaning they will receive an immigrant visa at their home country. And when they arrive in the United States, it will turn into a green card right away. So they will never be a visa holder. They will always be an immigrant from the day one when they arrive in this country. So if you have some wealth, if you have some money, this is by far the best way to come to this country, because there are not very many restrictions other than some guidelines that you have to follow, which are not very hard to follow. The intention for US Congress to pass this law was to create more jobs, to bring more capital to this country, bring more money back to the US, and offer people legal immigration to the United States. So see, it is and it was beneficial, and the idea of this visa program was very noble when it started, and it is still today the same, because you're bringing money into the country, into the economy, and you're creating job at the same time. So it was a win-win situation, which still today it is, and there are a lot of people that are taking advantage of this program. And remember I said about the guidelines. The guidelines of this program, very simple. The requirements are very simple, which is make the necessary investment. into a commercial enterprise or business. But in the event, as a foreign national, if you don't know where to invest, what businesses to buy, U.S. government have decided to set up a program called Regional Center. And these regional centers are opened up in all over the United States, where they bring in these immigrants and invest their money on their behalf. And these regional centers are approved by the government, and government monitors their activities and how they invest, and if there is any wrongdoing of any sort going on. So they're being monitored very closely. So as an investor, let's say you're coming from another country, it's very difficult for you to know which business to buy or where to invest unless you're here for a while and you know the culture, you know how things work in this country. Then you can say, okay, I've looked around and I like this business that I think I can handle, and I will buy this. But in order for you to realize that, there are times that you need to be here for a while to learn all these things. So the government realizes that there is a gap, and they said, okay, we will open up, or we will authorize some regional centers to open up where they will take your money and invest on your behalf and fulfill the requirements that government wants you to fulfill in order for you to get that green card. And they will do that for you, and you invest the money with them. Okay, back to the requirements for visa EB-5. As I mentioned, the very first requirement is that you invest a certain amount of money, and we'll get to how much, in a commercial enterprise or a business in the United States. And second one would be plan to create and preserve 10 permanent full-time jobs for qualified U.S. workers. Now, there is a catch to this, and I spoke to some people who have gone through this visa program. They said you don't have to have the 10 job created the very first day, but you have to have your goal and get there in reasonable amount of time. Now, if you get the visa today and let's say you invest your money into a business and 5 years go by, you still don't have 10 employees, then that is a problem. But your goal should be to get it done in a reasonable amount of time. Number third, and this is the most important part, is you are required to invest between $500,000 US to $1 million US. Now, depending on the geographic location of the country. Now, what does that mean? It means, let's say if you decided that you will have your business in, let's say, Los Angeles metro area or in New York City. In those cities, you most likely have to invest $1 million. Now, there are some rural areas, and there is a map and there are geographic description of areas in the United States, and you need to get that information from USCIS, and they will have a detailed information as far as which areas would require less investment amount versus more investment amount. And as I just gave you an example of these two large cities, these cities would require you to invest full $1 million. Now, I'm not sure exactly which geographic location would require you to invest less, but I know this, that if there are rural areas, for example, in Montana, I don't know if Mississippi still qualifies for that or Alabama, but in other rural areas, you can invest up to $500,000 and still qualify for that visa. So again, it depends on the geographic location that you choose to invest the money in. So if you have $500,000 to invest, pick a location that qualifies according to USCIS, and then either find a business or invest in that regional center program, and you are good to go. Now, I know I make this sound easy, and it's not. But again, it's not difficult either. As I said, the requirements are very simple and very straightforward. But you have to remember that there is a quota. It's not unlimited. There are not millions of visas available every year for this. There is a quota, and up until recently, that quota pretty much went unfulfilled. But in last few years, since there are more rich people are being created around the world, so there are people that are taking advantage of this program. So I believe in last 5 to 6 years, that quota has been fulfilled every year. So there are pending applications that go for the next year again, and mostly from countries like China, Brazil, and India, because these are the BRIC countries that are emerging into the 21st century world, and they're booming in some sectors. In some of their business sectors, they're booming and creating a lot more rich people and faster than any other countries. Under this program, you get the green card as soon as you enter the US, but it will be a conditional green card for 2 years, meaning you have to fulfill the requirements that I just mentioned, and USCIS will monitor and observe that you are maintaining your obligations, or rather fulfilling your obligations. And after that 2-year probational period, if they're satisfied, you receive your permanent residency card. And that's usually a 10-year card that is valid for 10 years. And within that 10 years, you can apply and become a US citizen. Typically, you have to wait for 5 years to apply for a citizenship. And once that 5 year is passed, you can then apply and become a US citizen. Also, under this program, you can bring your spouse, your husband or your wife, and your children that are under 21, age 21, with you, and they will receive the same legal status as you. If you and your family have the funds, in my opinion, this is the best option for anyone looking to invest and come to the United States. This is the fastest and the best way to get this process done. But just remember, there is a quota, as I mentioned. It's usually 10,000, I believe, is the visa that they give out every year. And as I said, it's filling up fast. So if you inquire, I'm not 100% sure if there is a geographical quota or it's an average. Altogether, it's a combined quota of 10,000. But if you are more interested, you can always go to uscis.gov and find out how to apply and where to send the application and every other steps of this. And if you have questions, you can send me as well. And if I can do the research or send an email to an attorney, I will do that for you and find out and let you know. Now, the second category of the visa that are very popular nowadays, and I believe most of you that are listening to this episode already have heard the term E2 visa, E as in Edward, 2 visa, also known as the Treaty Investor Visa. The E2 Investor Visa allows an individual to enter and work inside the US based on investment that you will be controlling, or the person that's investing will be controlling while inside the United States. So this is more of an hands-on approach. You invest certain amount of money. And again, the difference between EB5 and E2 is in EB5, government tells you that the investment has to be from $500,000 to $1 million based on a geographic location. But under E2, there is no such guideline of certain amount. It only tells you that you have to work in the business that you invest, and you have to have a controlling share of that business. So you will have to be controlling that business while inside the United States. This visa must generally be renewed every 2 years. Means the visa, and I'm reading this from a website, so I'm translating in general terms as well. That's why you would hear me read something and then I would explain. It's usually the visa is given for 2 years at a time. And as long as your business is in operating condition, profitable condition, you can every 2 years submit some P&Ls and some documents that the immigration requires you to submit. And there is a list of maybe 4 or 5 documents that they require you to submit to renew your visa. They will renew it every 2 years for indefinite amount of time. It can be 15, 20, 30 years that they will keep on renewing your visa as long as that business is operating under the guideline, meaning it's operating the way it should be and hopefully making some money along the line. Now, government also tells you that the investment has to be substantial. But again, they did not specify, does it have to be $50,000 or $75,000 or $500,000? Only thing it says is it has to be substantial. Now, it's a broader term, but let's take a look at something here. Let's say you found a gas station somewhere and you're buying the business, not the real estate. So the asking price is $150,000. And you have decided to get a partner from the US or somewhere else, and you still said, I will buy 51% of that business. So you're looking to invest, let's say, about $80,000 into that business to have the controlling share of the business. Now, is that substantial? Yes, it is, because you're buying 50% or 51% rather of a business that's generating profit. Now, under this visa category, it never tells you that you need to own any business with real estate or not. No such guidelines. It just says you have to have the controlling share of the business. And now, if somebody offers you a business that they have, that they're operating, and they're saying, okay, I will take a partner and I can sell you 55% or 60% share of my business that's generating about $5,000 a month profit, I will sell you that 55% or 60% share for only $60,000. Now, is that substantial? I believe it is, because again, you're buying a business that's profitable, that's operating just like a business, and it's generating income, it's employing people, 3, 4, 5 people, and you're buying the controlling share of that business. So as long as everything is legitimate, you're fine. That investment of $60,000 or $50,000 should be substantial. Now, as I said, every of one of these visas have some requirements and some documents that you have to furnish, and we'll go through a list of documents. But just know this, that there is no set amount as long as it's substantial. Now, you cannot go to immigration and say, I found a very profitable business. It's a gas station. It generates about $10,000 worth of profit a month, and I'm buying that gas station for $50. Now, that does not sound right, does it? So again, that's not substantial. So it has to make sense. That's what the point is. It has to make sense. It has to be the average going price that in a market for such gas station, you have to pay 60% of that. And that has to be believable and make sense. The other important requirement for this visa is it has to be only from the treaty countries, meaning US has some business treaties that they have signed many, many years ago. And if you are from one of those countries, only then you can apply for this E2 visa. Now, the countries like Brazil, Russia, India, and China, the BRIC countries, are not included in this. And I will read the list pretty soon so you would know if you're from one of those countries or not, and who can apply and who cannot. In this visa, you can also choose to start a new company or a business or buy an existing one. Just like I said, if somebody's selling you a share of a business, you can buy that. Or you can buy something outright or start something outright. Let's say you found a company, fast food company, that says, we will build a new location in this area. So if you invest money, we can build a new fast food burger joint or something. And you say, okay, I will invest $300,000 and we will build one. So you're starting a new business. You're not buying an existing one. You can do either. You can buy an existing one. You can build a brand new one. Now, let's go through some requirements, some qualifications of this E2 visa so you understand and match and see if you qualify for this. First, a person with a citizenship of a country that has this treaty with the United States. That's the first requirement. You have to be from a country that has the treaty. And I will again list all those countries that have the treaty with the US. Second is, you have to own at least 50% share of that company that you will be investing in the US. And thirdly, you may not be in the US in any other visa while applying for this E2 visa, meaning you may not be able to apply for that visa if you're a visitor in the United States and then decided to apply for E2 visa. Chances are when you come as a visitor to look for a business to buy, you have to go back and apply for your E2 visa while you're back in your country. But there are exceptions to that rule. There is something called adjustment of status. And again, if you contact an immigration attorney, they can tell you how to apply for an adjustment of status where they will change your visa status from tourist to E2 visa, which is the investment visa. And next requirement is your investment has to be substantial. Like I said, it has to be something that makes sense, and it has to be made with personal funds or with a loan secured by a property that belongs to the investor personally. So you cannot borrow money to invest in the US. It has to be your own money, or let's say you own some properties that you are borrowing against that you own, then you can do that. But you cannot get money from somebody else and invest and get this visa. Next requirement is the business that you invest in has to be a profitable business, has to be some type of company that's not a one-man operation. It has to have employees, it has to have payroll tax dollars paid, and it has to show some profit. So generally speaking, it has to be a decent, nice business, not solely for the purpose of having you live in the US, but it also has to benefit the US economy. If you think hard and long, you will realize that the only reason US government would grant you this visa so it can improve US economy as well. US is not looking just to benefit you. It has to be a mutual thing where you benefit by living in the US. US has to benefit by you creating jobs and making profit in the business so you can pay tax on that profit and some payroll tax dollars to the US government. Now, lastly, applicant must show that they have work experience and credentials to qualify and to perform the job of the company that you are buying. So let's say your resume says you never worked in a steel factory, but now here you're showing that you're buying a steel factory, steel mill. Chances are they will doubt how you would be able to operate such a big operation when you have no experience in running that operation. Similarly, if you can show if you have experience previously in some type of retail business back home, chances are you will get approved that when you're applying and saying you are buying a convenience store, a gas station, or a liquor store, or some other type of retail business like a fast food chain. So it has to make sense. Always remember, it doesn't have to match exactly. Like if you are an engineer and you're saying, I'm buying a healthcare facility, then you're not a doctor, but an engineer. So what kind of expertise would you have in running a healthcare facility or vice versa? So it has to make sense. That's the most important thing you have to remember as far as this qualification goes. Now, some additional information about E2 visas. One is the spouse of an E2 visa holder may obtain a work authorization to work for any employer and any job in the US. Meaning, let's say you come to this country with your wife and kids, or your husband and kids, and your spouse will get a work permit, and they don't necessarily have to work in your business. They can go out and get a job and work separately. Another benefit of this visa is that if you invest, let's say, in a convenience store or gas station or any other business, let's say fast food, and 3 years down the road, you decide that, hey, I'm making enough money, so I want to open the second location. You can do so. You can expand, and they encourage the growth of the business. So it is beneficial for you to grow. You will make more money, of course, but also it's looked upon very positively that you're doing a good job. That's why you're growing. And you can grow into any related businesses. It doesn't have to be exactly the same business. You can grow into any type of related businesses or the same field. And third and most important thing is, unlike EB-5 visas, as I said, there is no quota on E2 visa. So there can be 3 million people applying for this. As long as they qualify, all 3 million of them will get the visa. And that's why in last year and a half, all the people that are coming to this country are coming under E2 visas, because the requirements are simple and the investment naturally is smaller than EB-5. Even though you're not coming to this country as an immigrant, there are ways you can get to be an immigrant as long as you follow the rules. And we will touch on that in a few minutes. Just remember, you have to generally, you have to apply for that visa at your own country at the U.S. consulate office. But as I said, there are exceptions to that rule, and your attorney, your lawyer can tell you better. But typically speaking, you should be applying for this visa while you're in your country at the U.S. consulate. Okay, let's go through the list of the countries that the U.S. has these treaties with. First, I'm going to go alphabetically. So first country is Albania, then Argentina, Armenia, Australia, Austria, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Belgium, Bolivia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Cameroon, Canada, Chile, China, Taiwan, Colombia, Congo, Costa Rica, Croatia, Czech Republic, Ecuador, Egypt, Estonia, Ethiopia, Finland, France, Georgia, Germany, Grenada, Honduras, Iran, Ireland, Italy, Jamaica, Japan, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Latvia, Liberia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Macedonia, Mexico, Moldova, Mongolia, Morocco, the Netherlands, Norway, Oman, Pakistan, Panama, Paraguay, Philippines, Poland, Romania, Senegal, Singapore, Slovak Republic, Slovenia, South Korea, Spain, Sri Lanka, Suriname, Sweden, Switzerland, Thailand, Togo, Trinidad and Tobago, Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine, United Kingdom, and Yugoslavia. So if you're from any one of these countries, you can apply for your E2 visa, and chances are, if you follow the instruction properly, if you follow the guidelines and fulfill the requirements, you should have no problem obtaining your E2 visas. Now let's talk about briefly how to apply. And my recommendation is, first, of course, you need to find a business to buy, but I believe your first step should be to find a good immigration attorney, a lawyer, who has vast experience in investment category visa petitions and the process of it. And then you go find a suitable business that fits your budget, make necessary deals with the seller or the partners if you're buying a partnership. Drop all the legal documents through an attorney, and chances are your immigration lawyer can refer you to a local attorney that can drop all your business documents, your closing documents, your partnership, your any other type of business document that you would require when buying that business, including and not limited to purchase agreement and all sorts of other closing documents. Then you need to transfer funds to an escrow account. And typically an escrow account is under a attorney's firm's account where clients deposit money for business transaction. It's called an escrow account. And your immigration attorney, again, can help you with that. You have to usually transfer the money to their escrow account. That way it becomes a verifiable funds, and they issue the check at the time of closing. And finally, start running your business actively and then gather up the documents that I will be talking about very soon, so you can write it down or take the list from my show notes, so you will know exactly what type of documents you need to gather up to submit to the immigration department for continuing your E2 visas. And lastly, in my opinion, if you're buying a business in the US, you will have an attorney to help you with the business, the legal side of the process, the application and all that. But I believe it is also a good investment if you can buy a third-party individual or a company that can evaluate the business that you're buying. Because not everybody is the same. So there are dishonest people out there that are looking to make a quick buck when they know people are coming from abroad, from other countries. They're looking to get a visa. They can trick you into sell a bad losing business and put you and your money into jeopardy. So it is a good idea sometimes to hire a business consultant that can guide you through and help you on the business side, not on the legal side, but at least on the business side. Somebody can check and do quite a bit of due diligence and tell you, okay, the businesses you're looking at, out of these three, this is the only one that's making money, even though they're asking a little bit higher price. But this seems to be making money compared to the other two. And they can give you a good analysis of all of the businesses, so you can also make the same decision or reach to the same conclusion as they have. Now, here are some of the documents you can prepare and get things ready and gather up for your visa requirement. One is the form DS-156 and DS-156E. These are the two forms that USCIS requires you to fill out for your E2 visa. Second, obviously, number two, you will require to have a valid passport. Number three would be a photograph of yourself in 2" by 2". Number four, an original I-94, the arrival and departure record that U.S. immigration gives you when you enter this country with a foreign passport. And number five would be obviously the visa fee, whatever that is at the time you apply. Then a detailed letter written in company's letterhead, signed by the designated officer of the company, explaining the nature of the business. Let's say you're buying 50% or 51% of a gas station. So your partner most likely has a corporation, and that corporation has a letterhead because it's a entity, business entity. It could be an C corporation, LLC, or an S corporation. Whatever corporation it is, they can have a letterhead. And if that person, meaning your partner, is the CEO of the company, the chief officer of the company, he or she can write a detailed letter explaining the business, what it does, how it generates money, how many people it employs, and everything about that business. In that letter, they can mention as a investor or as a partner how you will improve the business, what your role will be in that business, and how will you actively participate in that business, and what your roles and your job duties and responsibilities will be. Along with what I just mentioned, now I will mention another 20 items that you will need to gather. And again, this is not exact requirement from the immigration, but this is what will make your application easy to get approval, because these are the business documents that typically a good person will prepare to submit along with their application. For example, as I said, the passport, of course, the picture, the I-94, these are the requirements. But then US government says you need to also furnish me enough documents that can prove that your business is doing well and you are actively involved in it, and it is a legal entity, business entity in the United States paying proper taxes. How can you prove all of this? Simple. I have a list of 20 items that I will tell you. You can copy this by going to my show note and have it in your file. So whenever you're about to apply after you buy your business in the US, you will gather these documents. And this gathering up of these documents may not take you more than a month. Most of these are readily available to you. Let me go through that. Number one, obviously, if it is a US business, it has to be incorporated. So obviously, you should have the incorporation document of the business, the articles of the organization. Number one. Number two, ownership of the company, meaning most of the corporate article usually spells out who owns what share of the company, but some articles do not. If you choose not to publish that in your article, then you have to publish that somewhere else where your accountant will know who made how much money based on how much ownership they have. So there is a document for that. And your accountant most likely will have that if you don't. So number two would be the ownership of the company, the breakdown of it. Number three, the capitalization of the business, meaning how much money was invested, what's the initial investment, and what is the status of it is now. It usually typically shows on a balance sheet of a company. And again, your accountant can give you one of those. Number four is a business plan. If you have been listening to my show, you know we have talked a lot about business plan and how important it is to have a good business plan and how to write a business plan. I even have a sample business plan on my website that you can go look at. You can download it, you can modify it based on your need. But a good business plan is always a very important thing to have. This is the document where you outline how you're looking to operate the business, how you're looking to generate profit, how you're looking to grow, how you're looking to employ more people, and you will forecast your profitability for next 2-3 years. A good business plan usually includes a 3-year projected P&L, profit and loss statements. Okay, next is information on the business activities such as marketing documents, sales contract, customer list. So if your business is one of those service-based industry, then you have a list of customers that you service versus you have, if you're into commercial sales, then you have some sales contract that you provide products to your retailers or other merchants in a regular basis, and you would have some purchase contracts from those people, and you can furnish those as well. But every business will not have that. For example, if you are investing in a gas station, you will not have any purchase contract or customer list because it's a retail operation. So based on your business, if you have that, you will furnish that. Number 6 is lease or property ownership document. Either you own the property or you lease the property. Whichever it is, you will have a document for that. If it's a leased property, you will have a lease to show for. If it's a own property, you will have some documents that shows that you own the property. Number 7, financial statements and tax returns for the US business, meaning the business that you're buying or starting should have some tax returns that are filed with the IRS, and you should have copies of that. But let's say you just started your business for the very first time. It's a brand new business. You will not have a tax return then because it will take you at least a year of operation before you can file tax returns. But in that event, you need to just write a letter inside all these documents that you're furnishing stating that your business is new, so you will not have a copy of tax return until next year. But here are the financial statements. Because even if you operated your business for just a month, you should still have a P&L. And your accountant can create one of those. It's very simple to do. It just talks about how much business you did versus how much expenses you paid, and after that, how much profit you have made. Simple. Number 8 would be IRS issued employer identification number or the EIN number. IRS is Internal Revenue Service, the tax department. Every business gets a number from that department to operate their business. It's similar to a social security number that every US resident and citizen gets. So it's a business employer identification number that you have. It's a 9-digit number. Number 9 is all copies of your business license. If you're operating a business anywhere in the US, regardless where it is, you will have some licenses that you will be posting on your wall. For example, a city business license, a county business license, a state license, and as I said, IRS EIN number as well. So every step of the way, federal government, state government, local government, you will have some licenses from them that are authorizing you to perform your business in that area or in that location. So you need to just copy those and provide those with your application. Number 10 would be escrow documents. Remember, we talked about how you need to send your funds to a attorney's escrow account. That attorney can give you a document that says how much fund were transferred from where and where that fund is right now. It's called escrow document, and they can provide you with that. Number 11 is proof of all the funds transferred to the US, meaning if you send, let's say, $100,000, where did it come from? Remember, we talked about if the money belongs to you or not is important to US government. So again, if you think it's hard to prove, you can just write a letter saying, this is the money was in my account in this country and I just transferred this to US on such and such date, and this is my money. Number 12 is payroll summaries, including employment tax filings. Remember, as I said, you have to show that you employ some people. It has to be beneficial for the US government to give you that visa, because they're hoping you would create jobs and contribute to the economy, US economy. So chances are you will have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, however many employees you have to pay taxes. And most likely you have a payroll company or your accountant that does this payroll can give you a copy of the tax filings. So you need to include that as well. Number 13 is bank statement for the company. So the company that you're operating, of course, has a bank account. You can download or get a copy of that bank statement that you get once a month and include 3, 4, 5 of those depending on how many months you've been operating. Number 14 is company utility bills. You have electricity, you have water, you have internet service, and all these companies give you a monthly statement and a bill. Include some of those that shows as a proof that this is your business and you're operating because you're paying bills on it. Number 15 is any bill of sale or purchase agreement. Let's say you bought a share of a business or bought a business outright from somebody else. Obviously, you made some purchase agreement with the seller. You need to provide a copy of that agreement. It could be a bill of sale or a purchase agreement, depending on how you did the deal. Number 16 is valuation of the business assets. And in this case, either, as I said, a business consultant can help you with a valuation based on similarly sold businesses around that city, or your immigration attorney or your accountant can come up with a valuation of the business. Again, it has to make sense. Put a value to a business, it has to make sense for that market. Number 17 is all and any foreign tax returns. Let's say wherever you're from, you need to bring some tax returns, your yearly income tax returns, and submit those. So US government can see that yes, you were a productive member of your country's society as well, because you worked, you earned your living, and you filed taxes. Number 18, foreign bank statements. Again, remember, we talked about how you would transfer money from your account to the US bank account. US wants to see, or if you can furnish some bank statements that are issued from your bank in your country, it will help your case, showing those funds in your bank account. Number 19, property ownership documents, foreign or US. Whichever property you own in the US or in your own country, if you can show some documents of that. And number 20, loan or mortgage document for US and foreign. If you have a home, or if you bought a home in the US or in your own country, or you own some other type of real estate that has a loan from a bank, bring or provide a copy of those loan documents as well. Last one on that list is L1 visa, also known as the intercompany transfer. But the maximum time that you're allowed to stay under this visa is only 7 years. Unlike E2 visa, where you can renew it for every 2 years for unlimited amount of time, the L1, you can only renew it up to 7 years. Not to mention, L1 visa are not for everybody. These visas are only available to employees of an international company with offices in both of the countries, meaning the company say, has an office in the US and in another country abroad. This visa allows such foreign workers to relocate to the office in the United States, work and live for 7 years, but at the end of the 7th year, they have to return to their own country. This visa can also work in a way where if a company doesn't have an office in the US, they can send an employee or 2 or 3 to start an office or a presence in the United States. So it doesn't always have to have an office, existing office, for the company to send their employees. They can send their employees to operate or open up a new branch or new setup or new office, whatever the case may be, in the US, and that way they can obtain those visas. So as you can see, this is not really an investment visa, but this also falls into that category where if you have a company where you're thinking, let's say you do trading of some sort and you think I can do the same thing in US while keeping my company in my own country, you can do so and open up an office in the US where that could be the main office or the satellite office, and operate business that way and bring your family and live in the US for at least 7 years. But one important point to keep in mind is most L1A visa holders can apply for green card in EB1C category and do not have to file for any labor certification like most H1B applicants have to do. Not to mention the green card process can only take about a year, most cases less than a year, but within a year they can obtain a permanent residency into the US. Now let's answer the question that I have received a few times in last few months, which is which type of visa is the most suitable for gas station business or small business such as gas station? Now, to answer that, I would say depending on your funds, depending on how much money you have, you can either apply for EB5 visa or E2 visa. Remember, as I said, EB5 is where you arrive in the US as an immigrant, not as a visa holder. Only downside to that is you have to invest between $500 to $1 million, depending on where you want to be in the US. On the other hand, E2 visa is a visa. It's an investment visa and not a green card. And you have to renew it every 2 years, but the investment is much less than what it's required under EB5 visa category. But E2 visa holders can also obtain a green card, even though the process is harder. I must say, wherever I read and however many research I've done so far, it is a little bit harder to transfer that status or change that status into a permanent residency, but it can be done. So let's talk about which visa help you to get permanent residency into the US. With EB5 visa, there is no delay, as I mentioned a few times so far, that as you arrive in this country, you arrive with a residency card, or a visa rather, and then as soon as you arrive, you receive a green card through the mail. So if you have the means, if you have the funds, if you have land or real estate in your country that you can sell or get a loan from and gather up about $500,000, this is the best way to go to United States and work and have a business and have a good life. Now, with E2 visa, even though as long as your business is profitable and operational, you can continue to stay in the US and keep renewing your visa. But there is not a clear and straight path to green card for the most part, as I just said before. It's not a clear and straight path, but that doesn't mean it will not happen. Let's talk about how it can turn into a green card. Say your business has grown and now you're employing about 10 people full-time or more. If that's the case, then you can convert your E2 visa into EB5 status. And again, as soon as you transfer E2 visa into an EB5 visa category, you automatically become an immigrant. Now, is it very easy? Not really. But is it very hard? I don't think so either. What it is again, you have to go through EB-5 requirements. As long as you can follow and fulfill those requirements, like I said, if your business has grown, then your business has to be valued at least $500,000. So if it has grown and values as that, and at the same token you're employing 10 people, then you're qualifying for EB-5 visa, even though you did not originally apply or got a EB-5 visa, but now you can apply by living here and working at your business and improving your business. You can apply and convert that visa status into an EB-5 category and thus obtain a residency, permanent residency through your business. But remember, for this to happen, of course, you need to get an attorney to help you with the paperwork. There is a form, it's called I-508, that you need to fill out and submit along with a change of status, I believe, Form I-485, if I'm not mistaken. And those are, and your attorney, I'm sure, will tell you what else to do and submit the documents that your business, what the valuation is, and how many employees and payroll taxes. Remember the 20-point checklist that I just mentioned. Most of the cases, you need to come up with those to prove that your business is valued at somewhere between $500 to $1 million and that you're employing at least 10 people full time. Now, you should also be aware of a concept here that's called the dual intent in E2 status. Because I know once I've said that you can convert your E2 into an EB-5 category, I know most of you will ask me this question, and I've done the research, and that's where it comes from. There is something called dual intent in E2 status. Like other employment-based non-immigrant status, where you have been allowed to enter the U.S. on a temporary basis, U.S. law requires you to return to your country of origin once the work or the business or the job is done. So the law says your intention should not be to stay in the U.S. permanently. You're here only to conduct business and work in your business as long as the business is profitable and doing well and your intention is to operate that business. But once that is no longer the case, you should return to your country of origin. However, here is the catch. The law also says that E2 non-immigrant visa holders can have dual intent, quote unquote, dual intent, meaning that you can simultaneously intend to leave after your E2 work visa is completed and or intend to seek permanent residency and stay in the US. So legally, the law says that once your work is complete, you should return home. But in the event that you are willing to stay in the US, you can then seek employment in other companies and stay as long as you find an employment. So that means it's a dual intent. Your intention can be two different things at the same time. Sounds confusing, but it is true. It is the law. So the way it works is while you're still operating that business under your E2 visa, you can also try to find an employer somewhere you can get a job who is willing to apply for your employment-based immigration petition for you and your family. It can be an H-1. Most of the time, if you're finding work as a foreign national, the company you find work at, they usually file a petition called H-1, which is a work visa, which eventually, through a petition from your employer to the government, you can apply for an adjustment of status along with a petition for a green card. It may take a couple of years, few years, depending on the backlog on H-1, but eventually you should have a permanent residency card. And most of the foreign nationals that arrive in this country with a job usually comes with an H-1 visa. And that H-1 visa in about 4 to 5 years converts into a green card. Now, there are some forms that you need to fill out like adjustment of status and some other forms. But again, that's why you hire a professional for that. You hire a experienced immigration attorney that can help you and guide you through this process. But the good thing is you don't have to leave the country because it's dual intent, meaning you do not have to leave the country. If you don't want to continue your business any longer, go seek an employment, have that employer file an H-1 petition for you, and that way you and your family can still remain in the US and eventually receive your green card. So as you can see, there are two ways an E-2 visa can convert into a green card. One, where your business has improved enough where you can qualify as an EB-5 category. That way you get your green card right away, which, remember, the first 2 years will be a conditional one, and then after the second year, completion of the second year, successfully, your conditional green card will become a permanent residency card. And then eventually in 5 years, you will apply and get your citizenship. And in E-2 visa, so this is the first way you can get a green card. And the second way is you do not want to continue with your E-2 visa, then while you're under your E-2 visa, you can seek employment with some other company. And as long as you get a job, have your employer file an H-1 petition for you, and eventually you will get your green card that way. So here's my take. If you have limited funds and still want to move to the US and willing to work hard in your own business, then E-2 visa is the way to go. Yes, it may take a few years to get permanent residency, but not having a green card won't affect you either way because you will be able to work, stay, live freely, even travel freely. So holding an E-2 visa doesn't hold you back any which way compared to if you had a green card, for example. Now, if you have the funds or if you can get the funds from your family members where you can claim that as yours legally, I would say EB-5 category is the way to go. As I said before, it's the fastest way to get a green card and live and own a business in the US. Lastly, 7 safety measures to protect your investment. And this is important because I think there are some emails that I've received where one person from Europe was taken by a fraudulent seller and almost lost $300,000. But by grace of God, he got help from an attorney and they found out how the fraud was taking place and stopped it, and he got his money back. But not everybody can be that lucky. So you need to take some safety precautions, some safety measures to protect you and your hard-earned money. So these are the 7 items that I want to make sure you follow. Number 1 would be, first, research and study everything you can find about the investment visa process and the requirements. It's important because you may find information from me, from somebody else. You may read something on the internet and start believing that that's how it works. But again, until you read the real law or get help from a professional, you don't really know if that is what it is because the law changes often. So if you're listening to this podcast 5 years from now, some law may have changed by then. And some of these things that I'm talking about may not be relevant anymore. So it is always good to seek help from a professional. Number 2, find and hire, or speak at least, to a reputable and qualified immigration attorney who's experienced in just investment visa category. There are specialty lawyers that do specializes in fields like investment visa. Number 3, contact only licensed local and nationwide business brokers when you are seeking to find a business to buy. Only look and find licensed brokers. That way you know at least they're licensed, so anything wrong or any fraudulent activity, if you find, you know you can file a complaint and they may lose their broker's license. So usually if they're licensed, they will not be involved in any fraudulent activities. Number 4, if possible, employ or seek advice from a certified accountant and a business consultant who's knowledgeable about your line of business and that can analyze sales data and point out discrepancies if there are any. Of course, a CPA, a certified public accountant, is knowledgeable about financial data. And then you can also hire a business professional, a business consultant. in the line that you're looking for. And that way you cover both ends, the financial side and the business side. If these two people say, yeah, we analyzed everything and everything looks good, you should go forward, then you know two of the professionals in those fields certified that the business is sound and profitable. Number 5, use escrow account to transfer funds. Whenever you're transferring money from abroad, it's always a good idea to use an escrow account, like I mentioned before. So if you meet a seller and they say, okay, I need $50,000 down payment for this to work, do not send the money to the seller's account directly. Instead, send it to an escrow account of an attorney. Let them handle the transaction, where they will have the seller sign a purchase agreement first, then release the funds. Number 6, carefully analyze sales and financial reports to make sure they fulfill the visa requirements. Remember, there are requirements that you need to fulfill as far as your visa goes. The business has to be profitable, has to have certain number of employees. So these reports will tell you that if this business that you're looking at should fulfill the requirements for the visa. If it doesn't, you may invest $200,000-$300,000 to buy the business, but again, it's not fulfilling those requirements. So you would lose that money. So it's important that you analyze and then send it to the attorney, let them review it, see if it qualifies. Number 7, the last one on the list, do a thorough due diligence before signing a purchase contract or writing any checks to the seller. Again, it goes back to whatever we just spoke about. A thorough due diligence is the key here. You need to make sure the business is making money. Whatever financial documents they're providing you with, P&L, balance sheet, any profit and loss statements, any sales data, any daily sales report, any vendor's purchase receipts, make sure that they match what the financial reports are telling you. Make sure that the lease is in good condition. Make sure if it's a gas station, the ground and the tanks, everything is in good standing. There is no problem with underground storage tanks. Make sure there are no environmental issues with tanks and registrations, and all the equipments are in operating conditions. There are many checklists that you can go through depending on the business that you buy. That's why I said you need to find and hire a business consultant that is knowledgeable in the line of business that you're looking for. There is always an expert in every subject and every line of business. You just need to find the one that you're looking for and have them review all of these, tell you that if this is sound and profitable or not. We just passed the hour marker, but I know we covered a lot, but not all, that's for sure, because this is a very broad and vast topic. You may have lots of questions after listening to this show. So my advice would be to send me questions. If I can answer, I will. If I cannot, I will direct you to some place where you can get answers from. You can also read my blog post regarding investment visas, where you will find a little bit more detailed information. And for that blog post, just go to my blog, and this will be on the very first front page. You just go to gasstationbusiness101.com, and you will see on the first page, episode number 31, and on the right side, you will see the blog as well, where you will have all the resources that we mentioned here and a little bit more detailed information. Now, as usual, I'm saving all the emails and not answering any of them in every episode like I did before. From now on, as I mentioned, every so often I will have a Q&A episode where I will be answering emails only. So if you send me an email and I haven't answered it, this is why. So please be patient and stay tuned. And if you have any questions, send me an email at shabir@gasstationbusiness101.com. And I will answer your question in the Q&A session. Also, lastly, if you haven't joined my new Facebook group where you can send me many questions and get quick answers, you can find me at shabirhossain.net. And this is a domain that's directed to my Facebook group. So just type in shabirhossain.net and it will take you to my Facebook group where you can ask to join, and once you are joined, you can send me questions and get answers pretty much the same day. Okay, lastly, the book that I usually mention, one book the book this week that I want to recommend is, of course, about how to get a green card. Because I bought this book to read and learn so I can speak in this episode. This book is called How to Get a Green Card, A Guide to USA Investment Visas by Mateen Chowdhury. While doing research, as I said, on this topic, I found this book and I read it, and it is a very informative book. So please, by all means, if you haven't read it, buy the book, read it. It's on Amazon. And I have a link on the show note that you can click and it will take you to that book. Now, lastly, if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, please do so, as I'm sending out free goodies via email. I just sent out my free ebook on passive income. So if you haven't received it, that means you're not on my mailing list. By all means, go to gasstationbusiness101.com/subscribe and please subscribe. That way I can send you important informations along with free goodies like the book I just sent, and I am getting ready to send one more pretty soon. Take care. I will see you in the next episode.
This has been the one and only Gas Station Business 101 podcast with your host, Shabir Hossain. This podcast was brought to you by CSB Academy Publishing Company. Be sure to join us next time as we share with you the secrets about how to start and operate a gas station business successfully and make money.